I'm William Cooper, and you're listening to the Hour of the Time. In June of 1992, delegates from all over the world met in Rio de Janeiro to continue the perpetuation of one of the greatest hoaxes in history. 99% of the people in the world are living in fantasy land. I've been lecturing for years that there is no depletion of the ozone, there is no ozone layer, and what have been called holes in the ozone layer are nothing more than natural occurrences that occur always in the same place every winter, depending upon which pole is experiencing winter at that particular time. These hoaxes are intended to help impose austerity during the present economic collapse by shutting down industry and infrastructure and by attacking and destroying science itself. Last year, folks, the National Geographic Society released in book form the results of a Gallup poll of 10,000 individuals internationally testing their knowledge of geography. The National Geographic Society considers it, quite correctly, a mark of illiteracy that 56% of American respondents do not know the population of the United States. 32% cannot name any of the members of NATO, and 50% cannot name any members of the Warsaw Pact. But not to worry. Most Americans, 84%, are aware of concerns that fluorocarbons and other chemicals may be destroying the Earth's ozone layer. Oh my God. Among those that are aware, almost all, 94%, realize that the impact of a depleted ozone layer would be felt all over the world. Nearly 3 in 4, or 73% of all respondents, knew that wind patterns, and not the ozone layer, ocean currents, or sunspots, spread the fallout from the nuclear accidents at Chernobyl. As the Soviets have emphasized as part of their glasnost disinformation campaign, we in the free world must no longer see them through the lenses of an enemy image. Quote, "The new enemy is us. International economic security is inconceivable unless related not only to disarmament, but also to the elimination of the threat to the world's environment." Unquote, said Mikhail Gorbachev to the United Nations General Assembly on December the 7th, 1988. Quote, "Time is running out. Much is being done in various countries. Here again, I would just like to underscore most emphatically the prospects opening up in the process of disarmament, particularly, of course, nuclear disarmament, for environmental revival." Unquote. Scam 1, the holes in the ozone layer. The surface of this planet is covered by dry bits called land and big wet bits called water. Where these two bodies meet is termed a beach, which may be sandy, rocky, cliff face, or any one of many other types. And where these beaches occur, there is to a greater or lesser extent a certain amount of wave activity called surf. Remember Annette Funicello, Frankie Avalon, beach blanket, bingo, surf? Guess that tells you how old I am, doesn't it? Well, imagine that you are strolling along a beach somewhere, minding your own business, and enjoying the view, when out of nowhere comes a demented Donald Francis III, hysterical, screaming, who wants to enlist your help in freeing the beach of board riders because they are wearing down the surf. He goes on to earnestly explain that the thin line of surf is the only thing holding back the ocean, and if the board riders wear it out enough, the layer of surf will become so depleted that it can no longer hold back the ocean, and the ocean will flood over the land and destroy mankind. What would be your reaction to such a person? Well, I think you'd quite possibly conclude, and quite correctly, that Donald Francis III should be confined to the local funny farm as quickly as possible. Wouldn't you? I should say at this point that most of this information on this program comes from the Executive Intelligence Report dated October 27th, 1989. Now, I've been lecturing for years that there is no ozone depletion, that there is no ozone layer, and that there is no danger from being fried by ultraviolet light rays. The reason that more people are getting skin cancer from exposure to the sun is because more people are out in the sun. It's a matter of demographics, population. Well, this is exactly the kind of logic being used to support the hole in the ozone layer scam, and erstwhile intelligent people are running around with varying versions of this Chicken Little story that the sky is falling. The sky is falling! The sky is falling! The ozone is being depleted! Oh my God! We must seek help! Without ever making even the slightest attempt to find out what is really happening and why. And you know, you all learned about this stuff in junior high school. As with the greenhouse effect, it is only necessary to understand a few very simple scientific facts to totally understand and debunk this scam. First of all, what exactly is the ozone layer? Our ozone mantle, as it is now being called, which supposedly protects us from all that unwanted ultraviolet light. Well, quite simply and bluntly, there isn't one. Just as the surf is not a magical barrier to the ocean flooding the land, and is, in reality, simply an effect of where land and water meet, so too is the so-called ozone layer. It's merely an area where an effect can be detected, not a cause. So let's start with a very basic chemistry lesson, which again can be confirmed with any junior high school textbooks. First of all, now listen carefully. This is very basic. I know a lot of you didn't take chemistry, but this is really easy to understand, so just relax, open your ears, close your eyes, sit back and listen. First of all, existing on this planet Earth and probably elsewhere is an element called oxygen. According to my dictionary, oxygen is an element with the chemical symbol O. Now, oxygen, for reasons I won't go into here, but which you can readily find out for yourself from the aforementioned junior high school chemistry book, rarely, if ever, exists as the single atom O. Such a single atom of oxygen, or most other elements, is called an ion, and it is very difficult for most substances to exist freely in their ionic state. So what normally happens is that two of these atoms of O seek each other out, combine, or stick together and form the molecule O2. That means a molecule formed by two atoms of oxygen. And this is the oxygen as you and I know it. This is the stuff you and I and all other living creatures breathe in and expel, and what we expel after we've breathed it in and used it is carbon dioxide, or CO2, which is one carbon atom and two oxygen atoms. In other words, it's oxidized carbon. In yet another of nature's wonderful balancing acts, green plants breathe in the CO2, extract the atom of carbon, C, as a building block in their cellular growth and expel oxygen, or O2. Now this is why it's so important that we stop destroying all the green stuff on the land by overclearing, and stop polluting up the oceans and thereby killing all the little green plants known as plankton, because most of the oxygen that we breathe comes from these trees and this plankton. O2, or two oxygen atoms stuck together, if you like, is the normal or most prevalent form of oxygen in the atmosphere, but it's not the only one.